Okay, so I'm sure that everybody has seen a graph like this or has heard things, ever since, we are the 99%, blah, 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 these kinds of social movements began coming out. Now, something that you notice very quickly, or whenever you hear people talk about this, whenever you read about it on the internet, it's very easy to get confused, right? So I'm just going to give everybody a quick way how to read these kinds of graphs correctly, right? So the point of this graph right here, okay, it comes from a separate viewpoint that is basically saying that the invisible line between the haves and the have-nots actually is around the top 10% of net worth, right? This is a net worth graph. So I think everybody has heard of the top 0.1%. As you can see here in 2010, I'm guessing it's a little blurry, having the same amount of wealth, sharing 20% of the nation's wealth as, the bottom 90% of Americans, right, who are considered to be struggling, right, having trouble, being in debt, buying a house, et cetera, right? And so what this graph is kind of like finding evidence for is that um, if you look at, you take out the 20% from, the bottom 90, and the 20% that's held from the top point one, right, including the likes of Elon Musk and you take all those guys out, Jeff Bezos, right? Uh, you get you still have around 60% of wealth that's only going to, 9.9% of people, which is still, unequal, right? And this is an argument over who is, middle class, right? Like who gets to call themselves middle class, right? So the reason that this is quite misleading and graphs like this can be quite misleading is that there's obviously like a point that's trying to be made. Okay. The first issue with this graph is that it's not accounting for retired people. Okay. To get to this 9.9% to be part of it, right? Assuming you're not 0.1%, right? Like assuming that's just a negligible stat, right? Um, you need a net worth in the millions, but not like the tens of millions, not even like 5 million. Okay, uh, they're not accounting for age. Okay, a lot of retirees are multimillionaires, I guess you could call them, right? I mean, that's just literally what they are. People over the age of 65, right? People who have accumulated wealth, right? So you're going to get a lot of retirees and people late into their careers here, while in the bottom 90%, right, you're going to get a lot of people who are, um, early into their careers just starting out, right? Or maybe people who just, you know, lost a lot of money. Like you never know, right? People, uh, and there's more issues too. Is that 0.1% is just so arbitrary. It's not like there's a point where people stop being mega wealthy in relation to others. They didn't give, to be more clear. They would need to prove that there's a steep drop off between 0.1% and 9.9%. That there isn't the top 0.2%, the poorest of the top 0.2%, the poorer half, that is way wealthier than the 0.3%, which shouldn't even be included. So top 0.1% is just for the sake of, like, math, and to make everything a little bit clearer. The top 1% of the 9.9% might have a lot more than the literal, like, let's say you are the definition of 10%, right? I mean, they would need to show a what's it called, a wealth distribution within there too, to really like prove that there is an actual cutoff at 10%. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, graphs can be tricky. You know what I mean? It's easy to get swept up. Okay. You know, yeah. So stay safe, everybody.